Hello friends, I hope you all are doing well. I, CA Pujan Kapadia, welcome you all on my today's lecture on the subject Advanced Accounting and Auditing Paper 5, popularly known as Principles of Auditing. Friends, today we are going to begin with our syllables. In the last lecture, we had taken due care of the syllables that we are going to study in this particular semester, followed by several paper style that you are going to face in your VNSU examinations, followed by the practical implementation of this subject. That is, how the knowledge that you are going to gain in this particular subject is going to be useful in your practical life. So from today, we are going to start with our syllabus. I'm going to commence with unit number 1, the first part of which is known as Introduction to Auditing. So friends, the topic for the day is Introduction to Auditing. Let's start with the first slide. The heading read as Origin of Word Audit. So the question over here is from where the word audit has come from. The first point states as it is derived from the Latin word audire, which means to hear. I have bold and underlined two words in this first point which you need to learn. It is derived from the Latin word. The word is audire, which means in English to hear. Second point states accountant was called for in case of any fraud and was heard by the fraud detection committee. Now I would just like to explain a brief background behind this thing. In olden days, we used to have king as the ruler of a particular kingdom. What the accountant used to do was he used to manage the accounts for that particular king. If king come across any kind of fraud, then what he would do is he would call for the accountant and would listen to him. He would hear to the accountant about the entire fraud. Fine. So from here we have derived the word audire, that is to hear. So basically what is the context over here is the accountant was called for by the king so that he could be heard about the entire fraud that has taken place. So it is nothing, it is to hear someone. As a result of which the word audit that we are going to study in this semester has been derived from the Latin word audire, which means to hear. Now let's see in the third point, development, how the audit has developed in our country. We'll start from last back. The first point is underdeveloped accounting stage. There was an arena there when there was no formalized accounting. It was totally in an underdeveloped format. People were recording certain transactions, people were not recording certain transactions. So the initial phase was underdeveloped accounting stage. Then the next step came ancient Greek, Roman and Egyptian rule, under which they appointed or they made it necessary to control the public account. Public account is basically accounts for government. So when this rule came, that is a rule of ancient Greek, Roman and Egyptian, it became necessity to control the accounts of the public. Then you might have studied the third point. There came into force double entry system, which was founded by Luca Pacioli in the year 1494. So we had started with the underdeveloped accounting stage, which was followed by the need to control the public account during the time of ancient Greek, Roman and Egyptian rule. Then came the double entry system of accounting, which was found by Luca Pacioli in the year 1494. Then came the Industrial Revolution in England, as an outcome was which there was an inception or the starting of the joint stock companies. So this was the next phase in this particular thing. Then in the fifth point, there was an institute which was started in England. That was Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales. You might be aware there is an Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in India. Fine. In the same manner, the inception was done at England, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales in the year 1880. After that, it became compulsory to appoint an auditor in England in the year 1900. So from here, the seeds were grown to appoint a compulsory auditor for a company, which was laid down very first time in England in the year 1900. In India, the initial Companies Act came in the year 1913, which laid down the requirement to get the accounts audited. So this is nothing. This is the phase-wise development that how audit came into effect in our country. To be very frank enough, this is not so important from the viewpoint of your examination. But since we are studying the subject for the very first time, it becomes necessary for us to understand how this subject has developed, how the need of this subject has developed in our country. So the important point that you should remember over here is the first point, that is from where the word audit has been derived. It has been derived from the word audire, the meaning of which is to hear. I hope I am clear with this. Moving ahead to the next slide, it read as definition on auditing. Friends, please keep in mind, whenever we are going to write any kind of definition in this subject, they are supposed to be quoted in the exact words as being given by any authority or by any author. Here we are going to study the definition of auditing. The definition that I have given you here is given by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So the name you need to remember over here is the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Let's read the definition. The independent examination of financial information of any entity, whether profit oriented or not, and irrespective of size or legal form, when such an examination is conducted with a view to express an opinion thereon. Friends, the definition may sound long to you, as a result of which what I'm going to do is we are going to majorly focus on the keywords and we are going to understand the same. The first keyword, the first underlined word that you can find in the definition is independent examination. Friends, there are two different words in this one. Independent examination. First of all, let's understand what is independent. Independent is something that you are not making anything. You are not doing anything out of influence of any other person. For example, I am teaching you guys. I am not teaching you under any kind of pressure or on the recommendation of something. It is because I want to teach you. Fine. As a result of which, whenever I am auditing the books of account, I should audit the books. I should examine the books of accounts in an independent manner. I should not do it under the pressure of any management or any owner of a particular firm. Fine. Examination over here means you are going to go through the several documents, several transactions of which you want to make an evaluation. The first very point that we are going to study in the definition is auditing is independent examination. So I've understood two words, what is independent, what is examination. Moving ahead, of what? It is of financial information. So I'm not going to take care of the non-financial transaction primarily. My major focus is going to be there only on the financial information. So it is the independent examination of the financial information of any entity. Now this entity can be profit oriented or not. So the purpose of this entity can be any partnership firm, it may be any company, it can be anything. The motive of which can be profit, may not be profit. It can also be non-profit organization, fine. And it is irrespective of size or legal form. I am not concerned that whether the business unit is small or big. I am not concerned with its size. Neither I am concerned with its legal form. Whether it is partnership, it is company, it is cooperative society, it is not at all concerned for me. What I am concerned is with the independent examination of the financial information of the entity. It can be profit oriented, it cannot be profit oriented, it can be small, it can be big, it may be partnership, it may be company, it can be anything. Now we need to read the rhymes. When such an examination is conducted with a view to express an opinion thereon. The third important keyword in this definition is to express an opinion. This is the most important point as an auditor we need to keep in our mind. What I am doing is I am doing independent examination of what? Of all the financial information. But what is the main purpose of doing this examination? I, as an auditor, is supposed to frame an opinion. I need to give an opinion that whether all the books of accounts are maintained properly, whether all the books of accounts are showing true and fair view, etc. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my opinion whether everything is being performed as per the law, as per the rules that are supposed to be performed. I hope I am clear with the definition. So again, recalling the definition is given by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. It read as it is an independent examination of financial information of an entity. The entity can be profit oriented, it cannot be profit oriented, irrespective of any size. It can be small, it can be big, irrespective of any legal form. It can be partnership, it can be company. But what is the main purpose of this examination? To form an opinion thereon. I hope I am clear with this definition and the keywords. Now at the bottom part of this slide, I have written one important word that you need to learn along with me. True and fair view. I am doing all this thing, but the main objective of mine is to determining whether the books of accounts are showing true and fair view. True means it should be correct. Fair should be, it should be transparent. It should not be like any fraud. There should not be any error. There should be any mishap. Fine, in this particular books of account. As a result of which, if I'm talking about balance sheet, I want to assure as an auditor that my balance sheet is showing true and fair view of the financial position of the business. We have studied well in accounts that what does the balance sheet shows? It shows the financial position of a business. So as an auditor, what is my task is to ensure that my balance sheet shows true and fair view of the financial position of the business. If I'm talking about profit and loss account, in accounts we have learned what does profit and loss account shows? It shows the profitability of the country. So as an auditor, what is my purpose? Whether my profit and loss account is showing true and fair view of the profitability of the business. In short, I'm focusing upon whether the books of accounts are showing true and fair view. It can be correct. It should be as per the laws. It should be as per the statute which is governing. For example, I'm auditing the company. So I should take due care that all the provisions of Companies Act 2013 are complied with for maintaining the books of accounts. So this is basically the definition. Till now, we have covered only two topics. The first was how the audit came into effect. How was the development of audit, in which we have learned the important point that audit word is derived from the Latin word audire, which means to hear. And in this slide, we have done the definition, which is given by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. I'm just giving you 1 minute. I request you all to read this definition and try to remember the same. Well, friends, I hope you have gone through the definition. Three important keywords: independent examination, financial information, to express an opinion with a motive to show that my books of accounts are showing true and fair view. Let's move ahead to the next topic: scope of audit. What all are the activities which are covered under the auditing? The first point which is written over here is accounting and internal control. See, I need to frame an opinion. That is my optimum target as an auditor. On what all are the aspects that I'm going to do, I'm going to cover to frame an opinion. So the first part is accounting and internal control. I feel you all are very well aware with the word accounting. I need to check that the accounts are being maintained properly. The accounting has been done in a correct manner. There is no mistake. There is no fraud underlying the accounting. Fine. So I need to check that accounting is done in a proper manner. Second word is internal control. Internal control is basically, we know all the businesses are prone to any kind of risks. But to avoid that risk, to reduce the impact of the risk, there should be certain control that should be placed in a business. For example, I have given you the example in, I guess, introductory slide, in which I have talked about the iCards. If you can recall the same, when you are going to enter into an examination hall, we compulsorily ask for your iCard. which is nothing, which is just a control to ensure that you are our student, as a result of which we can permit you to sit in the examination hall. So as an auditor, I need to check whether the internal control system are in place, are in existence, and how effective are they. So whether they are capable enough to mitigate, to face the risk that the enterprise is facing. In crux, I would like to say, I need to check whether the accounting is done properly. And secondly, I need to just assure myself, I need to get a satisfaction that internal control is existing and it is effective to mitigate, to resolve the risk. Second point that I'm going to focus about is arithmetical accuracy. If you can relate this with your 11 standard accounts, you might have heard this word, arithmetical accuracy. Remember the chapter of the trial balance. Trial balance is a statement which ensures arithmetical accuracy. Can you recall the same? Yes, friends. The trial balance was the statement that we used to prepare to check that there is no calculation mistakes. So in the audit, my next target is to check that all the accounts, all the books of accounts are maintained in such a manner that there is no arithmetical mistake. They should be arithmetically accurate. Third point is authenticity of the transactions. Authenticity of the transactions means the transaction should be authentic. They should be pure. There should not be any flaw. There should not be any biasness in the transaction. For example, if I am the owner of the business and I am spending the amount from the business for my personal use, fine. I know this should not be spent from the business, but I have spent those amounts from the business for my own personal selfish motive. Then the transaction would not be termed as authentic. So as an auditor, I need to check whether the transactions are authentic or not. The fourth point that I'm going to cover is I need to check there should be a proper distinction between the capital and revenue items. For example, I am purchasing a laptop. Now laptop, as you all know, is an asset to be recorded in a books of account. But what I'm showing is I'm showing it as an expenditure in P&L account on the debit side. Now what I'm done is the amount that should be capitalized is being debited to P&L account and shown as the revenue item. I hope you are clear with the difference between capital item and revenue item. Capital is basically which is for a longer period of time. Revenue is something which is just for a particular accounting period. So I need to check as an auditor whether the capital and revenue items have been properly bifurcated. Fifth point is vouching. We have taken due care of in the introductory lecture because it was a part of your syllabus. Vouching is nothing. It is examining the transaction, checking the accuracy of the transaction based on the documents like vouchers, bills, etc. Next is verification of asset. I gave you the example of building in the introductory chapter. If I have a building in my books of account, I need to check whether I am the real owner of this building, whether the value of building which is shown in the books of account is appropriate, whether any mortgage against this building, whether proper depreciation is charged for this building, etc. So there are various points that I need to ensure as an auditor for verifying the asset. The same goes for verification of liability. Next point is comparison of financial statements. This is again a good point to be understood, which can be also useful in future profession of yours. What is comparison of financial statements basically? See, comparison can be of two types. It can be on the basis of time. It can be on the basis of interfirm. First, let's talk about time. For example, I have earned net profit of rupees 10 lakh rupees in the year 2019, while I am earning the net profit of only rupees 1 lakh in 2020. Now there is a drastical fall in the total profit that I have earned in 2020 as compared to 2019. So I need to check the reasons. If I find that reasons are sufficient enough to justify this fall, then it's totally all right on my part. But if I find that the reasons are not justifiable, the profit should not have been fallen this low, then it's a matter of alarm. I need to go deeper. I need to dig deeper so that I can find out the actual reason why the profit has fallen this much. So basically this kind of comparison is known as comparison on the basis of time. Second is interfirm comparison. There are two enterprises, company A, company B. Both have invested the same amount of capital for the business. Both are identical in all the aspects. But a company A is earning 10 lakh profit. Company B is earning the profit of 1 crore rupees. So as an auditor, I should have a general idea of what a business earns with the X amount of investment. So this is again a big question mark. If I can justify the reason, then it is good. But if I find the reasons that are given by company A are not justifiable, I need to go deeper and check in detail what is the actual cause, what is the root cause behind this earning capacity, so that I can make out that my client is actually doing everything in a true and fair view or not. I hope I'm clear with this point. Comparison of financial statements. Next point, as I said, truth and fairness of financial statements. We have already covered this in the last slide, so I'm not repeating the same. Next is statutory requirements. As an auditor, I need to ensure that whichever laws are applicable to my client, applicable on his business, he should have properly complied with each and every provisions of that particular law. For example, if I am auditing the books of account of a company, I need to ensure that all the provisions of Companies Act 2013 are duly complied by my client. Last point is appropriate reporting. Reporting is basically nothing. Whatsoever you have found in the course of audit, if you find that there is something wrong, there is something that needs to be corrected, you need to report the same. If everything is good, then also you are going to report that as per you, the books of accounts are showing true and fair view. But if you find something is wrong, something needs to be corrected, you need to report the same, because your report is something that the entire world, entire people are going to rely upon. So as an auditor, this 11 points are your basic functions, the basic activities, your scope that you need to do. There could be a long answer on this, so I hope you are clear with all the 11 points. Moving ahead, the heading read as Basic Principles Governing an Audit. What all are the principles which are to be kept in mind by an auditor at the time of conducting an audit? See, we all know while studying accounts, you might have be a reference of accounting standard. If I can relate corporate accounting that you studied in SY BCom, you had a chapter of accounting for amalgamation and absorption, under which you have learned it is stated in accounting standard 14. As we have accounting standard in accounting, we have standards on auditing in audit. So the essay which I have written over here, essay 200, it is nothing. It is standard on auditing 200. Find the number of essays 200. What is the name of that essay? Overall objectives of independent auditor and the conduct of audit. So if the question comes, basic principles governing an audit, so under which essay, under which standard of auditing this principle is stated? The answer is essay 200. So it describes various principles. We'll go one by one. The first principle that auditor should comply with is integrity, that is honesty. He should not involve himself in any object which is dishonest. He should always be honest to the things and the transactions he is dealing with. Second is independence. I have explained the same thing in a definition. Independence means you are not doing anything by the influence of someone else. It is like you are directly doing anything independently. You are not influenced by any of the dominance of the management. Next is confidentiality. If I'm auditing company A, then it is my sole responsibility that I should not disclose any kind of financial data of company A to any other person. So I need to maintain that privacy. I need to maintain that secrecy. Next point is skills and competence. That is basically when I'm auditing the books of account of any company, I need to use all the knowledge, all the skills that I have gained during the course of my life, during the course of my professional career. I need to see that each and everything is done with the optimum level of skill I possess regarding the same. Next part is documentation. I need to ensure as an auditor that the client has maintained proper documentation to support each and every transaction. So there should be a proper evidence to each and everything I am auditing. Next is planning. As an auditor, I need to properly plan how I am going to go ahead, how I am going to do green signal, how I am going to go with the conduct of audit, how the audit is supposed to be conducted. There should be a proper plan. In the syllables part, I have shown you the steps of audit planning. Next is audit evidence. Here, I have given two words intentionally, which you are supposed to learn. Whenever word evidence comes in audit, you need to suffix these words with two words. That is, evidence should be sufficient and it should be appropriate. What does sufficient means? It is sufficient enough, that it is enough that I can prove that this transaction was actually done. So this evidence is sufficient. The first characteristics the evidence should possess is sufficiency. And the second point is appropriateness. Appropriate is basically, for example, I am auditing the transaction of purchase of a laptop and someone has placed a bill. There is a bill from a company who is selling laptops, but the bill is pertaining to speakers. Now just imagine the evidence is sufficient. You can say, okay, fine, you are having a bill from the vendor from whom you have purchased the laptop, but it is not appropriate. Fine. There should be a sufficient evidence as well as the evidence should be appropriate. Next point is accounting system and internal control. I need to ensure that the accounting system and the internal control system that we have discussed in scope should be proper and adequate. Proper is basically जैसी होनी चाहिए ऐसी ही है, and adequate is it is sufficient enough so that you can deal with the transactions in a proper manner. And the last, which is my optimum goal, my optimum objective, is audit conclusions and reporting. I need to report each and everything I come across during the course of audit in a clear written opinion format. So basically, this all are the basic principles that I need to take care of at the time of conducting an audit. All these principles are defined, are discussed under Standards on Auditing 200. Let's take a quick view. I'm just giving you 1 minute. Just go through the words that are written over here. Well, friends, I hope you have gone through the words. These are nothing. These are all the basic principles the auditor should keep in mind at the time of conducting an audit. Moving ahead, it's the next topic, the name of which is bookkeeping, accountancy, auditing, and investigation. What basically we are going to do is, in this slide, we need to understand the meaning of all these four words. All these words are bit interrelated, but we need to understand the process, that which comes first, which comes later, what is included in each of these words. So I am directly going to start with the first part, that is bookkeeping. I have written into bracket recording day-to-day transactions. So basically, what is bookkeeping? It is nothing. It is recording the day-to-day transactions that you are occurring in your regular business. For example, I am selling 5 goods in a day. What I'm going to do is I'm going to record this entry of this 5 goods that I have sold. It is nothing. It is bookkeeping. Let's see what is included in this is. First is recorded in general, subsidiary books and cash book. Now I am just taking you back to your 11th standard. Just imagine all the chapters that you have studied in your 11th standard. The first chapter that we studied practically was your general. Next was subsidiary books, under which we used to prepare purchase book, sales book, purchase written book, sales written book. And then it was cash book, single columnar, double columnar, 3 columnar. Fine. So basically what we are doing is all the transactions, if I'm recording it on a day-to-day basis for the very first time, it is known as bookkeeping. Next point that comes under bookkeeping is ledger posting. What I'm doing is from the basic books of entry, I'm posting the transaction in my ledger. And last thing is ledger balancing. That is, we need to find that either there can be a debit balance of a ledger or a credit balance, or a ledger can be squared up. If both the sides are tallied, then we call that ledger as a squared up account. As a result of which, these 3 activities are a part of bookkeeping process. All the activities are, first is you are recording the transactions on the day-to-day basis. It can be recording either in general, subsidiary books or cash book. Second is you are posting those transactions into the ledger accounts. And third is finding out the balance of the ledger. Next point comes is accountancy. It means compilation of accounts in a proper format. So from trial balance, fine, up to ledger, it is a part of bookkeeping. Now from trial balance, it comes into accountancy. Now let's see what is there in accountancy. First point is preparing trial balance. Second is preparing final accounts. Third is adjustment entries and rectification entries. I hope you are clear with all this part. And last is interpreting the results, that is your profitability, financial position. So basically ratios, cash flow statement is also a part of accountancy. In short, up to finding out a balance of an account is a part of bookkeeping. After finding out the balance of the account, from preparing of trial balance to the analysis of the entire accounting information is a part of accountancy. I hope you are getting the distinction between what is bookkeeping, what is accountancy. So till ledger balancing, it is a part of bookkeeping. From making trial balance up to the analysis of all the financial information, it comes under accountancy. Next part is auditing. You have very well understood today in the definition part what is auditing. It is the independent examination of all the financial information. What is your motive? To express an opinion. It is written over here, examining correctness of accounts and it to ensure that it shows true and fair view. So basically the examination, that is once the accounting is completed, what we do is we examine each and every financial information in detail to form an opinion thereon, to ensure that all the accounts are correct and they are showing true and fair view. So this process is known as auditing. So you can just note down the process now. First comes bookkeeping, that is day-to-day transactions recording and preparation of ledger accounts along with their balances. Second comes accountancy, starting with trial balance, ending with analysis of all the financial results. Third is auditing, that is basically your independent examination. And last is investigation. If I go one step ahead of auditing, then there comes a investigation. What is investigation? Checking in depth accounts for specific purpose. It means basically, if I come across a transaction, for example, I am going through the books of accounts of a politician, and if I come across that a scam was happened in a particular year in which I found certain unusual transaction in the books of account of politician, scam and unusual transactions at the same point of time. So what government will order is to go in detail for that particular year and analyze all the books of account of that politician for 3 to 5 years of that particular account related to that scam. What is this? I am doing auditing, I am examining, fine, independently, but here my main purpose is to relate whether he was involved in scam or not. So what I'm doing basically over here is I'm going into detail, I'm going in more depth, and I'm not auditing only the information of 1 year. I'm asking for the same account for 3 to 5 years. So when we do this in-depth checking, it is known as investigation. I hope you are clear with the four terms: bookkeeping, accountancy, auditing, and investigation. So now it's a time to test your knowledge. The same procedure is going to continue. You are going to be asked 5 MCQ questions. You'll be given 25 to 30 seconds for each. You need to mark the correct answer. After the end of all the 5 questions, we are going to discuss the correct answers. Fine. I hope you are ready and your time starts now. Well, friends, I hope you are ready with your answers. So let's check. The first question was the word audit is derived from, we have discussed in the very first slide today, it is derived from the word audir, which means to hear. So the correct answer is option B, audir. Second, choose the correct order. We have just dealt with the same thing. First comes bookkeeping, second comes accounting, third comes auditing, and last comes the investigation. So the correct order is 4, 2, 3, 1, which is your option B. Next question. Audit mainly focuses upon, I have used these words repeatedly today, true and fair view. So the correct answer is option D. Fourth is, when accounts are being checked for a special purpose, it is termed as, we have just discussed politician and scam wala example, it is known as investigation. Option C. The last question is, basic principles governing an audit are covered under SA, standard of auditing, which was the number, it was 200. So correct answer is option C. I guess all of you might have got all the answers correct. If not, you know the rule. Just go through the prior part of the video so that you can have a good amount of knowledge on the topics that we have discussed today. So with this, I'm going to end for today. I thank you, all of you, for your patient listening. Hope to see you soon in my next lecture. Thank you.